Hey, good evening, folks. Hope you're having a great Friday. Of course, it's March 19th, and on this day in 1982, a lot of music fans woke up to some really ugly news. The passing of Randy Rhoads and that terrible, altogether avoidable accident down in Florida. That accident actually occurred about 30 miles from where I lived in Seminole County. I was in Sanford, Florida, and the accident happened in Leesburg, Lake County, which is west of Seminole and Orange counties. Ozzy and Randy took the stage with Rudy Sarzo and Tommy Aldridge in Knoxville on the night before March 18th, and when they got to Florida, we all know what happened, that unfortunate plane crash. The impact of Randy Rhoads on the music industry is still felt to this day, of course. And, you know, I thought it would be instructive to go back to some of the accounts of the day. It's actually something that Rudy Sarzo did in his book, Off the Rails. It's a book that came out about 10 years ago, I think. I'm not sure if he had that ghost written, but it really details the 81 and 82 tours, or one tour broken into legs, if you will. I don't remember that detail exactly, but it's interesting that in his book he has a lot of press clippings from the concerts that they performed, and it's a pretty harrowing and grueling tale of a lot of summoning up a lot of energy and courage to get through those shows. It was anything but smooth sailing, but you got to credit Sharon Osbourne for her creation of the sets, and actually what she did for the band and the crew, I guess, was compile a book of press clippings and gave that to the crew and band as a keepsake of the tour, and so that provided a good, really accurate assessment not only of the details of the shows, but of the kind of confused nature of the music press at the time. I mean, they not to disparage them for the way they handled things. It was just kind of, the music was so new, and metal was still kind of underground then. You know, new wave of British heavy metal, 1982. I mean, you've got so many things going on: new wave, punk, post-punk. The Clash are kind of at their highlight, and they're about to fade out. The Who are giving their first farewell tour. Robert Plant is doing a solo album, as Zeppelin had called it quits a couple years before. AC/DC is refining its ground and actually soaring with a new singer. You got some odd threads. Of course, Brian Setzer and the Stray Cats. Kind of more experimental threads coming around from New York, and skronk guitar and all that kind of stuff. So it's instructive to go back to these press clippings. Not all of which I'm not sure if the ones I have are in Rudy Sarzo's book. Just so I don't know. It's kind of Bill, his place, Randy's place in our world, the world of guitar, the world of metal, is he's part of the Mount Rushmore, perhaps, certainly of bringing classical elements into metal. Following that line from Blackmore to Uli Roth and Michael Schenker. It's Eddie, of course, and then Randy. And he was so unique, and yet even a book like Star Guitars, which is a fine book, doesn't feature his polka dot V, doesn't feature any of Randy's guitars, those awesome off centered shark variants of the V. He definitely gets mentioned, of course, in the Definitive Metal Guide, or Metal the Definitive Guide, by the late Gary Sharp Young. This is a book must-have for folks, and just to apologize, I have to read for you a bit here, but there's some interesting um, interesting notes in this book that really give you a sense of who Randy was. I mean, just how monumental he was to the people who knew him, and how difficult his it was to kind of comprehend what he was doing then, so new as it was. I mean, even today, you've got that one video of 30 shredder solos in one song, and Randy's front and center, and it's I think the gentleman who did that, and I'll put that link in the description. GMC guitar. I apologize for not remembering it right offhand, but you know, just that ability, that forward playing and fluid playing is so incredible. But going back to what Metal Definitive Guide said about Randy Rhoads, Randall William Rhoads might just have been the last truly great guitar hero. He introduced a seismic change into the way metal guitar is played. Ironically, this slight figure's influence would be purely accidental, as Rhoads actually had very little interest in Black Sabbath. It was only when introduced into the Osborne Daisley Kerslake axis that his eclectic arsenal of ecclesiastical, Hypodorian, and Mixolydian modes and breathtaking diversity began to shine. It is one of music's greatest tragedies that Randy's time on this earth was all too fleeting. Bob Daisley, of course, the genius songwriter, bass player, had this to say: Randy, you could tell, was going to be a major talent. He would play an absolute blinder of a solo, and then double it note for note exactly. Everything was completely worked out to the finest degree in his head. That's a rare talent. People came down from the record company on a pretty regular basis, and when they heard Randy, you could see they were thinking, what planet is this kid from? We were all very proud of the magic that we had. We had certainly stumbled onto something unique. How unique, you say? Well, none other than Paul Chapman of UFO put it this way. He really encapsulated kind of the technique behind Randy's output here. Randy and I spent a good long time playing together. He showed me how to build complex chords from major scales, using triads and compounding third intervals. Consequently, the chord turned out to be an E7 inversion, starting on the third, G sharp, and not the root, E. That's when he showed me all about triads and chords, compound inserts, sevenths and ninths. His knowledge was quite unbelievable, really. His grasp of scales was way ahead of its time. I mean, the song Diary of a Madman is a Hungarian minor scale. Nobody did that back then. He was the first. You know, a lot of videos have surfaced of Randy as he gave, he made guest appearances at music stores, and he taught students. Of course, we know he also took lessons himself on occasion when he could, often apparently ending up teaching the teacher, but he was certainly a craftsman, a technician, and Rudy Sarzo points that out in his book, and clearly, you know, I will aggregate for you these great videos of Randy at these early '80s guest meetings, which are really just fascinating. I mean, it was so different, and it's really it's hard to understand the impact he had. It just flew by so quickly. I don't remember, amazingly enough, and I have a good memory for things, I don't remember the day it happened, and I lived right there. Now, my brother from another suburb remembers it quite clearly. He remembers that the Orlando Sentinel, or at the time the Sentinel Star, ran the photo of the plane in the house, and then photos of Randy and Rachel Youngblood, who was the hairdresser who was also killed on the bus. They put it top left of the front page there. That is it's prime real estate, folks, as you can imagine. You know, and I didn't even have Randy's work on record at the time, even though I was a card-carrying member, full-fledged, of the Columbia Record Club. But I did have it. A friend of mine gave me Blizzard and Diary on a tape, a little bit like this Tone Master, this fine piece of 80s technology. So that's how I was listening to Randy at the time. But I was so new to guitar and new to music, given that I didn't have any siblings or friends who were so musical that it was kind of it just kind of passed by, sadly. How different was the music scene then, and how difficult was it for the media to comprehend? Well, let me read you a few reports that I've gathered. Pittsburgh Press, Sunday, January 3rd, noted that Ozzy's music, mad mixture, kind of a tight head count there, tough to write. You eliminate the verb, but it's really difficult to do that all the time. Of note is this paragraph: disorder and psychosis abound too in the music, but not to the exclusion of some vivid lyric imagery. Mind on a carpet magic ride goes round and round, over the mountain kissing silver inlaid clouds, watching my body disappear into the crowd. Is it drug-induced or related? Some will say yes. I say not necessarily. Osbourne doesn't say at all. And they actually got the photo caption, we call them cut lines back then, although that was a bit of an outdated term. A fascination for phobias has led to Ozzy Osbourne's new album, Diary of a Madman. Group members are clockwise from top right: Randy Rhoads, correctly spelled R-H-O-A-D-S, Tommy Aldridge, Ozzy Osbourne, and Rudy Sarzo. Remember, it was supposed to be kind of a band concept, but as was, again, unique to the time, Ozzy was being branded as this lone kind of metal icon, you know. But prior to that, you had, Bowie was a solo kind of star, and Alice Cooper was a solo star, but, Ozzy really, again, at that time, and as Rudy Sarzo's book makes clear, it was anything but certain that this whole thing would take. The La Crosse Tribune in Wisconsin on January 28th ran a column by Pat Moore. This is for Bob Elland, 804 Livingston Street, the writer of a letter to the editor in Wednesday's Tribune. Bob apparently was a little upset by my remarks about Ozzy Osbourne. Her appeared at the La Crosse Center on January 19th. In a column last Saturday, I wrote, Ozzy Osbourne is geek to me. Elland's letter took me to task. Pat Moore is a geek to me, he wrote. Bob wrote, why don't we bring Ozzy back to La Crosse to bite off Pat Moore's head? You know, the fans were giving as good as they got, while the mainstream press of the day kind of grappled with what this whole Ozzy Osbourne thing was, and maybe in the course of the branding, the whole bat head biting shtick kind of overshadowed things. But that music did and does come through loud and clear. It's indelible. El Paso Times, El Paso, Texas, Friday, February 19th. Blizzard of Oz polishes bizarre acts. I'm not quite sure what that headline means, but heavy metal outfit Ozzy Osbourne and the Blizzard of Oz, remember they were still somewhat a band entity then, will perform at 8 p.m. Tuesday in El Paso County Coliseum. Tickets, a whopping $9. Shreveport Journal, Shreveport, Louisiana, Wednesday, March 3rd. The caption tells you that there were no doves, bats, or goats when Ozzy Osbourne, the Madman of Rock, took the stage at Hirsch Memorial Coliseum Tuesday night. Osbourne performed before a crowd of 6,500, and that, according to Sarzo's book, was kind of a high number in terms of the venues they were playing. Again, remember, this was, we tend to think of the golden age of metal, the heyday. They weren't playing to these packed stadiums like they, Metallica of the Black Album era, or they weren't doing, Monsters of Rock necessarily, or Donington there. I mean, that's where they would get the big crowds. But Ozzy's coming through Lakeland, he's playing in Orlando, Van Halen in '82, and from that period, 78 to 82, 84, would play the Lakeland Civic Center in Lake County, Florida. I mean, these were small venues. It wasn't this big spectacle quite, unless it was the festival like Monsters of Rock, or was it Dan the Green, the one that Metallica, that wonderful video out of '85. Baltimore Sun, Baltimore, Maryland, Sunday, March 14th. This again shows you just kind of how hard it was for people to kind of place things. They weren't quite sure what was going on. Heavy metal rock gets bent out of shape by hard pop bands. And there's a caption under a photo of Classic Sabbath, late era Classic Sabbath with Iommi and Butler and Ward. Black Sabbath helped establish the basic style of heavy metal in the late 60s. now being changed by heavy rockers. Hard pop, heavy rockers. I mean, what are we talking about here? You know, so much kind of trying to grasp this really underground at the time, really unestablished thing that was poised for what we now know was an incredible era in the 80s. Going back to that Orlando Sentinel front page story of March 20th, of course, they'd be working on that story on this day, that Friday. This is the actual day, Friday. They'd be working to publish for a Saturday morning edition. So this is the Saturday morning front page edition of the Orlando Sentinel by Lynn Bumpus Hooper, Crash Kills Pilot, 2 in rock band. Osborne, scheduled to appear at the Rock Super Bowl 14 in Orlando, was sleeping in the bus with 2 other members of the band when the plane fell. He was not injured. Concert promoters Friday said the band will be replaced at today's Tangerine Bowl concert by guitarist Pat Travers. Ticket refunds will be available. Killed were guitarist Randy Rhoads, 25, Andrew Aycock, 36, the pilot and bus driver for the band, and Rachel Youngblood, 58, a makeup and wardrobe assistant, Lake County Sheriff's officials said. Story made it around the country. Daily News in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, Saturday, March 20th, notes that Ozzy loses 3 in an airplane crash. The Tribune in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Joyride, tragic for rock group. Tight headline count. You can forgive them, I suppose, for calling it a joyride, but in any case, you know, people get a little picky about the tone of headlines. Again, here's the caption for the promotional photo. This is a promotional picture of the punk rock band Ozzy Osbourne's Blizzard of Oz, which reminds me of that, you know, about 4 years earlier, the sitcom Alice, where the waitresses in the diner, one of the sons wants to go see the Sex Pistols in that infamous '78 tour. You know, it was all so new. It was bubbling up rapidly from all directions. You know, the legacy bands were giving way to this new kind of thing, even though punk was kind of on the way out, and, you know, post-punk and hardcore were about to take over. The Day 2 story in the Sunday Sentinel, March 21, notes that deputies guard the plane crash site. Armed guards Saturday patrolled a Hollywood-style hideaway down a dirt road in Lake County where 3 members of Ozzy Osbourne's rock band Entourage died Friday in a fiery plane crash. Ozzy Osbourne and other band members were mourning the deaths in seclusion at a hotel in Leesburg. The name's a little hard to read here. They canceled a performance at the Rock Super Bowl 14 in Orlando on Saturday. A few days later, up in Philly, the Philadelphia Daily News noted that at the Spectrum, Ozzy picks up the pieces Wednesday, March 24th. Fans of Ozzy Osbourne and his band are mourning the death of Osbourne's guitarist, Randy Rhoads, who was killed in a plane crash near Lakeland, Florida on March 19th. The band opened for Foreigner in Orlando the next day, but canceled or postponed their next 4 dates. They'll pick up their schedule at the Spectrum here Friday, fulfilling the rest of the shows on their tour. No decision has been made yet about a replacement for Rhoads, although there is talk of either breaking in a new guitarist or getting someone as good as Rick Derringer or Joe Perry. About a month later, April 7th, the Post-Star in Glens Falls, New York, had several letters to the editor apparently here. Editor, I'm writing in regard to the article that appeared in the Post-Star on Thursday, April 1st concerning the Ozzy Osbourne band. The article was headed, Boston Nix's Ozzy after puppy rumors. I would like to know if the Post-Star is that hard up for news that it has to print such trash as that and put it on the front page, no less. I would also like to know if the Civic Center is that hard up to make money that it has to have people, if you can call them that, like that, appear here or there. I don't know about all you people out there, but speaking for myself, I've heard enough about this band to last me a lifetime. So there. That was actually a letter from Carol LaPointe. Oh, this might actually be the same letter. I'm not sure it cut off here, but we are concerned about the effect of the appearance of Ozzy Osbourne will have on area youth. Rumors preceding his appearance of biting off animal heads, dismembering, or otherwise mistreating animals, even if they do not happen, have caused problems in the anticipation of such events. So you see the hype was taking over among the parents and the folks in town. How are we doing here when I wrap this up? Indianapolis News, Saturday, April 10th, a column called The Rock Pile. A letter by Mike Guido of Danville noted that on March 19th, we lost one of the most talented new guitarists to emerge in rock and roll. Randy Rhoads may not be a name that is well known, but his style of guitar playing was unique. Anyone who heard Ozzy Osbourne music can tell you that. Randy was voted Best New Guitarist by Guitar Player magazine and England's Best Heavy Metal Guitarist by Sounds magazine. Maybe he didn't get the recognition he deserved because of the publicity Ozzy Osbourne got. Randy had the potential to become a guitar giant, but now we will never know if he could have become a legend. Randy Rhoads died in a plane crash that robbed rock of a very talented guitarist. Still later in May, Ozzy just wants to go back to the weird old grind, according to the Fort Lauderdale News, which became the Sun Sentinel. For most of the 70s, Ozzy Osbourne was a popular performer, well known to hard rock fans as the piercing-voiced lead singer of doom and gloom heavy metal band Black Sabbath. Hey, actually coined the doom term a little early there. My old alma mater, the Journal News in White Plains, Friday, July 23rd, a classified ad. I know you want to come across this one. Now, it's got a 64 in front of it, so I'm wondering if this is... well, in that case, Les Paul custom for sale, Randy Rhoads model, blonde finish, gold hardware, all orig, XL mint cond with case, must see to appreciate, $800. Oh. Still later in the year, Thursday, September 9th, the Vincennes Sun commercial in Indiana, Ozzy Lives by Tony Dawson. One of the prominent figures in rock and roll has been Ozzy Osbourne, formerly of the rock group Black Sabbath. Although his second album, Diary of a Madman, has been out for 6 months now, I think it's about time that Ozzy Osbourne received credit for being a musician rather than a madman. People were trying to issue that corrective stance there. Talking about Over the Mountain. These superb drums of Tommy Aldridge, combined with the superb guitar work of Randy Rhoads, makes this song one of the best of the album. The next song, Flying High Again, has some of the weirdest sounding guitar work performed by Rhoads on the album. Go back to that story about the Hungarian minor scale. And to be clear, for me, Diary of a Madman solo is possibly, it's certainly one of the top 10 in metal. It's so superbly crafted, from slow build to soaring heights and that crescendo and that definitive and yet economical explosion of passion and fury. It's just amazing. Saturday, October 23rd, the Tyler, Texas. You remember the Tyler Rose? Earl Campbell, Houston Oilers, legs like tree trunks, amazing player. Tyler, Texas noted that a lawsuit was filed in L.A. Relatives and business associates of a rock guitarist and a hairdresser killed in a plane crash have filed a $25 million wrongful death suit. Don't know what happened there. And, of course, no year would be complete without the unavoidable year-end summary stories, which usually you stick the newbies on. The Asbury Park Press, Monday, December 27th. Notes that in March, John Belushi was found dead in his Hollywood hotel room, and guitarist Randy Rhoads of the Ozzy Osbourne band was killed in a plane crash. Uh-oh, wait a minute, folks. This is breaking news from 1982. A study made by Warner Communications pointed its finger at home taping. The study concluded that the record industry lost $600 million in 1981, all because fans were making their own tapes of popular music. Now, mustn't hurt the music industry. So there it is, folks. What a tremendous loss, but what we gained from that young man, that wonderfully humble, sweet, soft-spoken young man, was something that's a gift to all of us. We hold it in our hearts. Thank you, Randy, so much. Crank that stuff out tonight, folks, and have a great Friday evening. Have a great rest of your night. Thank you for checking us out here. As I say, I'm going to aggregate in the links some of these great videos of Randy teaching at those very early artist in session appearances at music stores. It's just the enthusiasm, and yet there's almost like a naivete about what's going on that has grown into such a, there was still mystery in music then. Hopefully we get back to that point at some time. Be well.